Testing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
That's enough.
Okay. Hi. Today what we're going to do is a little spot that I call around the house. I've got a list of items that we're going to look at that everybody needs to know how to do around their house. So here we go. Hey Tom, how you doing?
Hi, look who's here, my buddy.
Hey.
What's the word?
Not much. Just it's good to relax a little bit.
Yeah, you deserve it.
Yeah, so what you got there?
Well, we have a honeydew list here. It's a lot of minor things that my wife has found around the house and has to be done. And we really don't know how to do it ourselves, simple as they are, so we want to ask an expert to give us some hints and some ideas so we can save a little money.
Let me take a look at that list, see what you got here. We got a whole list all the way down.
Yeah, that's
I don't know about this. You know, I'll look at all this and we'll see what we come up with. Each item, we'll scratch them off and hopefully I'll be able to take care of everything on this list for
I
you.
hope so. That's what we called here for.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Let's get started.
Let's go for it.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, buddy.
Uh-oh, we got a slow draining sink here. Well, that's our next little project. I'm going to show you how to unclog that sink right now. We're going to pull these doors off first so that we can get in here. We're going to clean some of this stuff out of here. Now, I don't have to show you how to pull these doors off because you know how to do that now, right? Okay, all that stuff's got to come out of your cabinet. We're going to do that now. We got everything cleaned out from underneath the sink, and take a little plastic container or something, put it underneath this trap. There's this, I call this an adjustable P-trap. There's threads on the top of it and there's also threads over here. So we're going to undo this, and then this is all full of water right now. So when we take this out, it's going to drip. So make sure you have this plastic container underneath it so you don't get everything wet everywhere. That'll help reduce everything. Okay, so these are usually finger tight, or if they're not, I'll show you, we'll take some channel locks to it and loosen them up. Okay, you can try to loosen these. See, this one came off already. And usually they're hand tight. But if you can't do that, you're going to use a pair of channel locks. This is a nice pair of channel locks that I usually carry around with me. It's about, you can get ones bigger than this or smaller than this. This is like a medium size. And you can adjust it however you want. So you can take your channel locks, put it up here, and gently loosen this up. And once you get it loose, now you can do it by hand. This particular P-trap is black, as you can see. This is an ABS P-trap. They also have white ones, which is PVC P-trap. And they also have silver ones, which are metal. So whatever kind it is, you need to loosen up the nuts. If it's the metal ones, be careful with those threads because they might be rusty and it might be kind of hard to take off. And use your channel locks on those for sure. Okay, so I'm going to loosen that up. Loosen this one up too. And when you take that off, you're going to get some water dripping down. Just like what's happening. I'm going to take this one off all the way, the bottom one. Now you can kind of slide this one down. You don't have to take that nut off all the way. Slide it off, dump the water in there. Loosen up these nuts now. You loosen them up all the way, and you can leave them right on the pipes. And then you can pull this down, dump out all the water. Now you let that up in there, slide that up out of the way. At this point, usually something's stuck in here. You can clean this all out in a sink. Not this sink, don't turn the water on. You can have it come in out here. Do it somewhere else, clean it out. Reach up in here, think if you feel if you got anything in here. A lot of times you got a lot of hair stuck up underneath that, you know, up above. And I'll show you what we do for that. Okay, the plunger to your sink is attached back here by this little rod. What we're going to do is slide this little catch off of here. Remember which hole this is on, and we're going to loosen that up so that we can pull that little pop-up out of there. Because usually that gets caught with a lot of hair. So Just remember what you're doing, which hole is on there. Slide that goodie off of there, and get ready to loosen this up. We're going to loosen up. There's a nut back here. Usually this nut, you can't get it off with your hand. So I got my channel locks up there. I'm just going to gently turn that. It's a plastic nut. I'm going to turn it just enough so I can get my hands on there, and you're going to loosen that up. Once you loosen that nut up, you can pull that little rod out. It's that little plunger. Okay, pull that out. This is the nut I was showing you. It's kind of hard to show you underneath here. So here's the nut that you take off. Then you want to pull this out. This is the little plunger thing I was telling you about. Pull that out. Now that you got that plunger out, we're going to go up on top of the sink. We're going to pull out the pop-up valve. Now we're going to pull the pop-up valve out and see what we got here. Ooh. Now see that stuff? That's all hair and stuff like that. If you put Drano down there, the Drano is not going to cut that. I'm sorry, it's just not going to do that because it was hanging off of this. The only way to do that is to pull everything out like I was telling you before. Okay, once you get this out, you can clean this off. Just remember not to turn your water on or else it's going to go down the hole. Clean this out somewhere else. Now we can pull the pop-up valve out. You're going to have to use your fingernails or something. Pull this up. Let's see what we got under here that's keeping this drain from draining. Ugh. Ugh. Yuckies. That's what was in there, and we wouldn't have been able to. The Drano wouldn't have cleaned that out because all that hair was caught on the tip of this. The only way to get that out is for you to follow these steps. Okay, we're just going to wipe this off and stuff, but make sure you don't turn your faucets on because we've moved the bucket underneath there. This will just go down and hit your cabinet. So make sure you clean this out at another sink. Now's the time to show you a little trick. If you have a pop-up valve, and let's say the top is not screwed on tight and your water leaks out of there and stuff, or it's just loose, you don't know how to tighten it up. Well, you've got plastic threads here, and believe it or not, you can't tighten this up. You can't turn it the way you would normally turn it. These are reverse threads, so you have to screw it on like you're doing it backwards and you'll tighten it up. If you don't know that, there's nothing you're ever going to do to tighten this up there. So it's not going to be because the threads are stripped or anything. Just tighten it up backwards and see if yours will do it. Another thing I want to show you is there's a hole at the bottom of this. That's where that little plunger goes. Okay, this is the plunger that I showed you from underneath, and it fits in there. And then when you pull this at the back of the sink, this will pop it up and down. Now, if you put it through this hole, if the same thing happens again, you want to clean this really easy, you're going to have to pull everything apart. So I wanted to show you another thing that you can do. If you want, when you put the plunger in, you can put the plunger in first, tighten it all back up underneath the sink, and just slip this down last. Then next time you want to clean this, you can pop this out of the way, pull it out, pull the hair out of here. That's if you don't want to fill up the sink all the way, like if you're shaving. But you know, you do have an option if you want to do it that way. Then you can pull this up later and clean it again without going through the whole process again. In this case though, because this is not my home, I'm going to put it back the way I found it. So I'm going to slip this through there. So I'm going to have to fish it down there and make sure I get it through there. On some of these pop-up valves, they may have the name of the sink brand and faucet brand. If that bothers you, I mean, you can put this back in. It could be upside down. If that bothers you, make sure you flip that around so that you can read it. You can flip it around and put it in that way. I'm going to put this down there, and then we're going to have to fish this through the hole at the bottom, and then I'll come back up here and we'll pull on this a little bit. Make sure that you've got it how you want before you start tightening everything back up. I want to show you one more thing on this pop-up. Most of them have a little rubber gasket. It's kind of hard to see it, but there's a little rubber gasket in here. If you like to fill the sink up and not have the water drain out, pull this rubber gasket off, take it to the store, or take the whole pop-up for that matter. Make sure you get a nice rubber gasket, a new one. You can put it on there, and voila. At this point I got one hand above the sink, one hand underneath the sink. I want to make sure that this little plunger fits in right. I'm moving it with my left hand, pull on that. As long as I can't pull it out, I know I've got it in there. I've got the writing facing the right direction. And I'm ready to get underneath the sink and tighten up that nut. Okay, now's the time to put your plastic nut back on there. Make sure you've got it threaded on there right. The last thing you want to do is cross thread it and start tightening it up, because you'll have a leak for sure. Okay, you're going to put it in there finger tight at this point. Okay, I'm putting it on finger tight. There's a little gasket in here, so I'm not too concerned that it's going to leak when I get done. But I still want to just do it hand tight for right now. Now I'm going to take my channel locks. I'm just going to tighten it just a little bit. I don't want to do it too tight with the channel locks because I could mess up the plastic threads. So just do it snug, and that's it. Now that you think you have it snug, see if you can move it with your fingers. I can't. Okay, so that's tight enough. I'm not going to do it any tighter than that. Everything moves up and down. Okay, we're good for the next step. Okay, we're going to reattach the plunger with this little piece here. This came off when I took it off of the riser extension. Put it in the same hole. First you put half of this on the rod, and then put the rod through there, and then put the other half on. Make sure you put it on the same holes where you took it off from before. I got that piece on there now, and there's a definite place where you want that. So put that on, and we're going to go and try the pin. You can have the plunger thing facing down or facing up. Now I forget which is which, so I've just done it facing down, and I'm going to go back up there and see if that's right. If it's not, do the very opposite. Okay, now we're ready for the next step, and that's to put your trap back on. Make sure you've got it all clean. We're going to put that back up like this, and we're going to tighten that up. It's important to put this on straight, and you're going to line it up, put that down. Just want to get it started a little bit. Lift this up, and there's a little white sleeve here. Make sure you kind of push that down and set this on there. And don't tighten it up just yet. Make sure you got it going and it looks like it's right. You may have to slide this up or pull it down a little bit, but that's what you want to do right now. Now we're going to tighten these up. They usually have some little finger nibs right there. You can use those and kind of tighten it. You just want to tighten it by hand right now. Now you want to tighten these up. Just tighten them finger tight. You don't want to tighten them too much now. Okay, make them snug. Before we tighten it down all the way, I want you to look at it, make sure it looks right, and see how this slides up and down? You don't want to get this down too low, or else the water is going to be sloping uphill to get out. I want to push that up a little bit, make sure it's up a hair, not too much though. Now cinch this down by hand, as tight as you can go. I've got a pair of channel locks, but I don't want to tighten this up with channel locks if I don't have to. If I tighten this too much, I could crack the threads on one of these. Now I've got to go to the hardware store. So I want to make it snug. Now I'm going to put water in it, check back down here and fill this thing up with water, let it run a little bit, and watch for drips. Check for any leaks. Just run your water, that's what you're hearing. I'm running water through here. I'm looking for leaks. If you do see any leaks, it's probably going to be coming out of the thread, at the bottom edge of the thread, at one of these points, maybe even the top edge. You may have to shine a flashlight in here. Take your time. Look, the last thing you want is for this trap to start dripping. If it starts dripping, you're going to have a mess in your cabinet that you won't know about till months from now. Okay, I checked for leaks. This is all nicely tight. Looks like we're fine, so that completes our project. Now if you do notice any water dripping out of here, the last thing I want you to do is tighten this up any tighter. I don't want to use channel locks and take the chance of cracking this, so I'm going to show you what I do to make the leak go away. I'm going to take this little roll. This is called Teflon tape. you need a little roll of this. It's always nice to have this handy. It works out really well, as you will now see. In order to use the Teflon tape, we've got to unscrew this again. Now remember, before you unscrew this, we've got water back in here. So we've got to slide our little bucket back over here and loosen this up and let the water drain back out. Some of it's going to spill on the floor, but most of it's going to be okay. And you can wipe that up. The main thing is we want to catch most of it, dump that water in there. It's kind of tricky to put this on. It's just thin little tape. It's called Teflon tape, and this you put on the threads. You kind of have to hang on to it. It doesn't want to slide around. Try to put it on there nice and straight. You don't want it to overlap each other just yet. You're going to kind of keep it tight. We're just going to wrap it around the threads. Now, do you see how this could help stop the leaks? Works out really well. And sometimes I just put this on just to make sure, so I don't have to pull it apart another time. This Teflon tape doesn't cost very much, and when you have it wrapped around a few times, you're good. You can just pull this and break it off. You're going to wrap it on there. The important thing to remember when you put it on is you want to wrap it the same way that you're going to tighten it. So do you see how I'm putting that on? I'm still putting it so the end of the tape is still going this direction. So when I put the nut on, the nut's going this direction, and that's going to help tighten that on. If you put this on backwards, the opposite direction, as you tighten the nut, it's going to loosen up all of your Teflon tape. Hopefully that kind of gives you the idea, and you know what I'm talking about there. And watch this little segment a couple times, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Since I got it on there, I know as I tighten that nut on there, it's going the same direction as the last little bit of Teflon tape. Don't do it the opposite way, or you're just fighting yourself, and all this is going to unravel. Okay, so I'm going to do that on this threads, and I'm also going to do it on this one. I'm gently wrapping this around the same direction. You also may want to know that they have Teflon tape that's wider than this, a lot wider as a matter of fact, but our threads aren't very wide here. So I'm using this. You can overlap a little bit, but I like to use the thinner stuff, and then I can kind of graduate it on down. Okay, I'm going to snap that, pull that off, and I'm just going to kind of clean that. I want to make sure that my edge doesn't overextend into this area here, because that's where the little nylon bushing is going to fit. I want to keep these areas nice and clean. If I get the Teflon tape there, that could cause it to leak too. So just watch what you're doing, be careful, and that's what this is going to look like. Now you're ready to put this on. I'll bet you it's not going to leak. Okay, tighten this back up by hand. You'll see there's a little bit of nylon thread, nylon tape extending over. That doesn't really matter. That's underneath the sink. And now we can put this back on, snug it up kind of like we did before, raise this up where you think it needs to be, and tighten it down by hand. Don't tighten it with a big wrench. Tighten it as tight as you can with your fingers. Okay? That's what you want to do if it's still leaking without the Teflon tape. Okay, snug that down. We're going to run water through this again, shine a flashlight on here. Chances are everything's going to be fine. Now if it's something else, it could be that your trap is broken, your nut is broken, and it's got a hairline crack in it that you can't see. The nylon bushing has to be replaced. I mean, there's several other things. I'm trying to give you a quick and dirty on how to do this. I don't want to go into too much detail. That'll be in another section with how to install faucets and all that kind of stuff. This is just for your trap. If you can't seem to feel like this is tight enough, you can use your channel locks. But once you get your channel locks on there, you only want to turn it just a little bit until it feels snug. Now you may have to use channel locks if these are metal threads or a metal P-trap, and tighten it up. So there is a time where you're going to need to use your channel locks. Just don't over tighten things any tighter than you can, or you're going to run into problems. We've got the water running. What you want to do is wipe up the bottom of your cabinet of all the water spills from before. Then you can kind of let this run for a while, even if you don't see any drips. All you got to do is check this in about a minute or so. If you see one little bit of water on here, you know you've got a little bit of a leak, and then you have to look at it a little bit closer. Okay, we're wiping this. This gives you a good chance to wipe out the bottom of your cabinet at the same time. Look at that, 2 birds and 1 stone. As you're wiping this up, wipe it up all nice and dry. It gives you a chance to wipe out the whole cabinet at the same time. Now you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Can you imagine? I ran water through it. Everything seems fine here. If the threads on the little plunger up above, look at that, make sure that's not dripping, because I saw a little drip as I'm tightening this up, and it was up there. So I'm going to tighten that just a little bit more with my pliers. They're plastic threads, like I told you, so I didn't want to over tighten that. There's a little gasket up there too, so I didn't think I needed to put Teflon tape on there. Now if that is still dripping when I get done, guess what? I'm going to have to put Teflon tape on there. And it just goes to show you, any threads that you have, once you have it off, you might as well put some Teflon tape on there. That's your little insurance. I'm running water down here again. I'm checking everything out. Got this all wiped out. And just a little tip, you can use some toilet paper or something like that. And after a couple minutes, as you're letting the water go through there, just wipe the bottom. Even if you can't see any water, you can wipe this down here. If anything's moist at all, obviously you know you've got a drip somewhere. You can shine a flashlight up in there, check everything out, and do a good job. I don't want you to have any leaks. Everything looks good now, but I did want to point out, if you do happen to feel or see a splatter up in here or something dripping off your trap, that doesn't necessarily mean your trap is leaking. You always want to look up too, because we had the threads above the trap, you know, that first piece we took off, that was dripping ever so slightly. And I gave that one little tightness and one little turn, and everything stopped. But I don't want you to just make an assumption that it's always going to be your trap at that point. Check everything out, wipe everything up, dry everything, turn the water back on, and there you go. Everything seems to be working good. This now holds water. Sometimes this won't hold water before, because you got too much hair and stuff stuck around here. So everything looks fine. This pops up and down, nice and tight. Everything runs nice now. All right. You can check this one off your list now. Now that you've determined everything's dry, put everything away and put the doors back on, the cabinet doors. Now I'm not going to show you how to do the cabinet doors, because you know how to do that too, don't you? Well, Tom, I finished that list. Can you believe it?
Thank God.